and that you're still...
This is kind of sentimental, actually. This is the last one we have. Out of 330 acres, we were the middle 101 acres. We sold most of it to D.R. Horton, and they designed the residential. And we kept the mixed-use property, which was later developed. And this one here is the last one we have.
Okay, so you don't actually have the land where the grocery store and all of that was supposed to have been built. That
would be the Heege.
The Heege has that one. Okay. Okay, that was my only question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I ask your patience with me with AI Mins Hawala. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
Not a problem. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Amina Aluwalia, and I'm the property owner of 352 Bristol Park Court, Camarillo, and I am very concerned with this project. This is in a school, very close proximity of this school. We bought this property because it was close to school, and I have young grandchildren that, 2-year-old and 2-month-old, and I feel that having, I'm in favor of having senior living. Don't get me wrong, I'm getting there. But at the same time, I feel that, having this particular facility so close to the school puts the kids at risk, and that's my prime concern. I also have concern, again, concerning the kids, because the kids are always going to be playing around, and you're going to have a lot of, traffic and a lot of people coming and going, the staff, all kinds of people coming in, and the kids need a safe neighborhood. They keep talking about, dark spaces, and to me, this would become a dark space for them. So I request that in light of the fact that it is so close to the schools, that we, have this facility somewhere else. It is required, I'm not against that, but I don't think it's safe for the kids. The noise is going to stop the kids from sleeping. They're not going to be alert to work. We are not going to be alert to work and perform with all of the 911 calls or other traffic coming through the night. And I think we deserve a good night's sleep after a hard day of work. And this is going to take that peace of mind and sleep from us, and we don't deserve that. I also feel that we put our life saving into this home. We're getting close to retirement. We feel the equity in our property is going to be lost. I didn't hear anything that identifies the impact on the property values within the neighborhood. And, what is going to be done in order to safeguard our properties and the savings that we've put into this place. We won't be able to afford, places like that to go to if we have no equity left in the homes. It's the money that's going into the commercial world, leaving us people behind with holding the bag for them. So would really appreciate your consideration for the kids. If for nothing else, do it for the kids, our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. And I might mention that what we normally do is wait till we have all the questions in and then give the project manager or the chance to answer all of them. So we're not spending a lot of time answering one, then that kind of thing. So you will get your answer. It'll just be in a few minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, Chair, I'd like to remind the Chair and the Planning Commission that if so desired by majority of the Commission, that you can limit the speakers to 3 minutes. So we didn't set the timer because that hadn't been discussed, but I want to remind you that you have that opportunity.
How many speakers do we have?
Yeah, I think actually we should limit the planning commissioners to 3 minutes, and it might get a little more.
Mr. Chairman, how many speakers do we have?
Anyway, I have 2 of them. Did you put in two two different slips?
Okay.
'Cause I have an Amina, I don't know, anyway. I enjoyed your second one too, it was good. Somehow there were two of them in there. Jay Evans is a member in.
I don't think there are too many.
If you give your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Jay Evans. Excuse me, I reside at 1939 Servato Drive in Camarillo. I am a executive board member on the Camarillo Council on Aging and Camarillo representative on the Advisory Council for the Area Agency on Aging. And so I'm here speaking on behalf of seniors, but speaking as an individual, not representing the organizations that I serve on. The staff is to be recommended for the thorough job they did in identifying the current population and the projected trends for seniors. We're unique, not unique. All of Ventura County is going to continue to age, and our population projected to be roughly 28 to 30% seniors by 2030. So we need options for seniors. The Camarillo Council on Aging did a community survey in conjunction with the Area Agency on Aging and published results in early 2015. And I want to read one of the questions and the response from that survey, in which we had 255 participants. If you could no longer stay in the home you rent or own because of health reasons, which of the following options would you consider and could afford? And the options were moving into board and care, moving into assisted living, moving into a skilled nursing facility, moving in with family members, moving into a continuing care community, and other. Moving to assisted living was the highest frequency at 42%. Moving into a continuing care retirement community, which is a little different but of a similar nature in terms of senior housing, was another 36%. So clearly the seniors that we surveyed back in 2015 indicated that assisted living would be their preference if they were not able to live in their home. Also, we've been addressing the physical environment for seniors, which is very well designed and planned. But emotional health of seniors in these facilities is also very important to the operators. And unlike the prior speaker, its proximity to a school presents a unique opportunity for intergenerational programming, which is very important in helping to maintain the emotional well-being of the residents of assisted living facilities. And you could have sample programs are senior mentoring, game-based clubs where the students and the residents play chess or checkers, or adopt a grandparent programs, which are very familiar in assisted living, and also preschool senior companion programs. So with the proximity to the school, the proximity to the Y, this particular facility would have a unique opportunity to work with its neighbors and provide opportunities for intergenerational programming. And I urge the commission to approve the project. Thank you.
Mr. Mullen, I have some questions. Do you have any questions?
No, thanks.
No.
I just have a quick one. Are you aware of the Lutheran home in Norwalk? They have an intergenerational program?
Yes, I'm aware they have one. I'm not familiar with the specifics of their program.
I'm kind of getting the feeling that's about the same thing. Is that-
Yes, and I'm confident that the Oakmont representatives would be more than happy to tell you about intergenerational programs that they have in their existing facilities.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. James Schiller, if I pronounced it correctly.
Hi, my name is James Sugar, and I'm here to support my neighbors that live by where this is going to be built. And I think a little bit of context here is that I don't think any of us that bought homes in Village of the Park envisioned that there was going to be a senior center built at that location. It was a big surprise to us. I think the perception was that it was going to be a church. Now, certainly is within the zoning of what it is, but I think it kind of fits a pattern of that there's a planned community. You go in there and things change. Things change from what you initially think. The park wasn't advertised as going to be a soccer-only park. It wasn't going to be advertised that they wouldn't have enough parking and that the parking would fill over into our neighborhoods every weekend, okay? The shopping was supposed to be a shopping there. A lot of us believe that they did not wait long enough because obviously there's going to be more high-density housing that's going to be on Lewis. There eventually will be a population for the shopping, but yet it was changed. So there's more high-density housing there. A lot of us think that eventually it's all going to be high-density housing and that there won't be any shopping there. So pardon us if we're a little jaded about developments like this. And in this particular case, this is an 8,700 square foot development. That seems pretty big to me. The church you mentioned earlier was less than half that size. There seems to be, I guess the parking comes, is within what it's supposed to be with what you perceive it. But it seems that, to me, that there's never enough parking. Okay, and this idea that the workers are going to come on their bikes or walk to work is, pardon me if I don't find that laughable. And I'm also a little disappointed that the commissioners and Commissioner Valenzano appreciate all the questions you had, but there's really been a lack of questions about this project with us here tonight, a lack of perspective of the homeowners in Village of the Park and where they come from. And it just seems to me that just from being a devil's advocate, there could have been a lot more questions by the commissioners tonight about this project. I'm lucky in that I live on the other side of Village of the Park, okay? So this probably won't impact me a whole lot. But it's going to impact some good friends of mine, some neighbors that I've had for more than 10 years, and they have a lot of anxiety about this. They have anxiety about the impact it's going to have for noise, the impact it's going to have for parking, the impact it's going to have on their home prices. And I think that's all legitimate. Maybe that isn't something that any of y'all are concerned about, but that's something that we are concerned about in our neighborhood. And some of these things that are being explained away as far as the noise, as far as the parking, as far as that, people are going to bike to work, it doesn't add up to me. And again, pardon me for feeling this way, but there's a 12-year history of that community where one thing is supposed to be put in and it turns out to be something else. So, I'm here because I just want to make sure that this is going to be the right facility for that particular place. I have my doubts about it, and that once it's built, there's not anything that any of us can do about it. This has nothing to do with being, whether you're for senior housing or against senior housing. I'm for senior housing, but I'm not sure whether it's the right place for that particular spot. Across the street from a school, immersed in a neighborhood, where a lot of these folks that are back here are going to be sharing a wall with it. So, I know that you guys have done your homework, or it seems like you've done your homework, but it sure seems like everything has been in favor of the facility and not with the perspective of what it's like to actually live there. And if any of y'all lived on Brister Park, you may have had some other questions besides the ones you had tonight. Anyway, I really appreciate your time, and I say this with all due respect. Thank you.
Is it Robert Gonzalez?
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, Mr. Mabry and Oakmont. You've been helpful in discussing this project, and the staff has been very helpful as well. I had a couple questions that I guess you'll list, and they can be addressed later. One is regarding sirens for emergency vehicles. The main feeder roads, when they turn off main feeder roads, the sirens go off. Is Village at the Park Drive considered a main feeder road or a residential road? I'm hoping it's considered a residential road. Regarding, by the way, I live at 286 Brister Park Court, so I'm the homeowner right behind the dog park. So have a few extra concerns about that. The dog park is very close to that back wall. Several of us have dogs. There's going to be a chorus of barking amongst any dogs that are out there. It happens regularly when dogs are out. All of our dogs bark. It's not going to be pleasant for the Oakmont facility residents or us. So I'm hoping the dog park could be moved closer to the Oakmont facility. I do note that it's as far away from the residential places of the Oakmont facility as possible. It's over by the kitchen and as far away from the facility as possible in the back, but it's also then as close as possible to the other residents. The planting and gardening area. Will there be time limits on when planting and gardening can take place? My folks who are elderly somehow seem to be able to wake up at 4 a.m. bright and alert and go about their day. And I'd hate to have 4 a.m. gardening taking place or 4 a.m. dog park walking. The trash pickups. Again, my home is right there next to the garbage area. I'm hoping that there's some time limits on when that dumpster can be picked up and emptied, and that it's between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And also then the kitchen staff, even though the wall has gone up, which is a nice accommodation, all the way to the roof of the garbage facility, I'm hoping that there's some accommodation so that the kitchen workers aren't dumping garbage and banging dumpster lids early in the morning. They are fixing breakfast, which I assume starts pretty early. So some kind of limitations on that. Perhaps an increase in the height of the barrier wall just to the other side, the residential side of the garbage area. I think it's about a 4-foot wall planned now. If it was an 8-foot wall, the same size wall as the residential wall, for a portion of that would help considerably. I want to talk a little bit about parking. Others have talked about parking. One of the challenges for parking in that area is the school that is there has grown and grown beyond its initial planned size. That's come with more and more parking. The townhome area, which along Village at the Park Drive, originally that was supposed to be parking along Village at the Park Drive. So the townhome area doesn't have that as parking. They end up parking over in all the cul-de-sacs that are close to it, which is Brister Park Court. This will bring more parking. I question the assumptions about parking. 1 car per 4 residents. I question that given today's technology, given tomorrow's technology with driverless cars. It's going to be much easier for elderly folks to keep, own, operate cars. I see the parking demands already overburdened and see them only climbing. And it's already a challenge. Last question I have is, one other thing on the parking. The other options for parking, for that plot of land to be developed, a church, 1 day a week of congestion. This is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Other facilities, the parking level, residential level, and type of parking needs don't compare at all. And I find the report a little bit lacking in the comparison of the parking needs for this facility with those other facilities. Last, the construction. I assume that there are regulations regarding dust mitigation, noise mitigation, but I'd like to know a little bit more about that to make sure that that's being addressed as fully as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Were there any questions? Gary Cushing?
Chairman Les, Planning Commissioners and staff, I'm Gary Cushing. I'm CEO of the Camarillo Chamber of Commerce. I gave you a letter, but I thought it was important to come tonight also. I come representing the Chamber of Commerce and a son who has had to place their parent in an assisted living facility. This type of facility is very much needed in Camarillo. We have a shortage of space, and as the community grows older, we will need more. When I needed to place my mother 2 years ago in a facility, there was not one single room available in Camarillo. Luckily for her, and unfortunately for the person that passed away, she was able to get a room. And there's been a comment about this facility next to a school. She was at Atria. Atria is right next to a school, Las Posas School, and they had a great relationship with the school. So, Commissioners, I urge you to approve this project tonight. They've done a great job of designing it, and I think they're going to be good stewards of the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
No? Thank you very much. And Amy, you?
Good evening.
Would
My
you-
name is
Would you tip the
Amy.
microphone down?
Oh, okay.
That's all right. Thank you.
My name is Zhang Yuan Amy Yu. I'm the resident of the village at the park. So I'm here to concern about the things happened just last Saturday. When we get out from the my street, there's two pile of cars already parking in there. So for the soccer ball team. So you mentioned the school. I don't know you guys mentioned about the big, huge soccer ball field. So every weekend, like the season time, Saturday and Sunday, it's really busy street. I think it's not good for the senior to live in there. I don't think it's, I don't know, it's not safe or something like that. So that's why I'm here tonight. So it's already really busy street, and those things always hold in the weekend. I know if senior live there, the visitor most times they come weekend too, because working parents, the school times. Usually I take my kids go visitors on the weekend. So that's double team there if the senior center built up in there. So the more traffic is really crowded. Another concern is about the, I studied a little bit about the senior, the age, really aged senior. Yes. I respect, everyone will going to old. So we respect those senior. I hope can find a good place for them. I don't think that's a right place, because just the traffic and the noisy, also the airplanes really is already really noisy too. So yeah, I hope you guys can think about it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I'd invite the applicant to respond. Oh, I better close the meeting.
Is that all the speaker cards?
Pardon me?
That is all the speaker cards?
That's all the speaker cards.
Yeah, I think there might be.
Really? You got a card in here? Well, let me invite you up, and then we'll get the card later.
It should be there.
Here, maybe. That's all of them.
Did you go to the box recently?
Please, if you would fill out a card
I think he did.
after you speak, that'll be fine. We'll get it in the record.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. Chairman, Commissioner, residents, owners of the property to be developed, and the proposal at hand. My name is John Twitchell. I'm a current resident of Village at the Park. I've resided there for 12 years. When I first moved into the neighborhood, I moved into the neighborhood for several reasons, 3 of them which were location, location, and location. With that being said, going back to the very first home I ever purchased, with a lot of guidance from fellow workers and family, those were the 3 key things to keep in mind when purchasing a home. I have 2 younger kids that have grown up in that neighborhood who attended Rancho Rosal, who attended Monte Vista, and one currently at Cam High. And I can't speak highly enough about the community that we live in, coming from Los Angeles, where the impacts of condensed neighborhoods are huge, which is part of the reason we came out here, was because of the proximity to the schools, the quality of the schools, and the location, location, location. And I say that because when I look at a senior assisted living facility such as the one that's being proposed, and I've frequented those on many occasions, I look at that and I think that is a business that is inside of, as my neighborhood Jim Schicker so eloquently put it, immersed into the neighborhood. I've done some research on my own. I've looked at several of the Oakmont facilities online because I couldn't frequent those. Of the 5, 1 of Chino Hills, Santa Clarita, Whittier, San Antonio Heights, and I might mispronounce this, but Capriana, all face a main thoroughfare of some type and back up to a residential neighborhood. They do not face residences on all 4 sides. They face a main street. In doing that research, I also looked at the actual times at which they were most busy. At the bottom of each one of their websites, they have an area where you can scroll through, and it shows the busier times from Monday through Sunday. And what I found is that as we get towards the end of the weekend, or towards the end of the work week, and on the weekends, the times grow longer into the evening and start earlier at the beginning of the day. So with all that in mind, I think back to having lived through this recession where the property that I purchased, my property went down in value to a point where I was actually considering having to sell and move away from it. But we weathered the storm. Our property values have come back up. But this last piece of property here that sat in that neighborhood, who's had a weed abatement problem for some time, at periods of time, where my neighbor at the time had to complain to one of our council members, current council members, in order to get the weeds taken care of. That then I start to think, when this development is, if it's allowed to be built, what will that impact, or how will that impact my investment? Because it is a business. From my experiences in the fire service, I've seen that when one body passes on into the next life, another body takes its place. When I go to sell my home, I have to wonder, is now my home, our neighborhood is most definitely going to benefit their building. And I can understand why. We have a beautiful neighborhood. But to have a business immerse into our neighborhood that has so many other influencing factors, I would think that there has to be some other better spot for that facility, especially with 80 some odd residents living there. So the other concern as I have is the further increase in traffic. Some of my neighbors have already talked about it. The school. When my kids first started Rancho Rosal, they broke the ice there. The schools around our neighborhoods have since been closed, and Rancho Rosal has taken on, I'm going to guess, approximate, and talking with my wife, approximately 200 more students, to where they had to put bungalows inside the center of the school on the grass. to accommodate that. In doing such, it has increased the traffic. Now, living in the area that I live in, knowing that that value of my home is because of the schools in the area that I live in, I can accept that. But again, to have a business that's going to bringing traffic in, service trucks, concierge services, residents, or I'm sorry, family members of residents that will be residing there, is going to further increase the traffic even greater than it already is. My neighbor behind me spoke of this past Saturday and Sunday. We're fortunate enough in Camarillo where we don't have to run our air conditioner that often. So we sleep with our windows open. At 6 o'clock to 6:30 in the morning, Davenport, which is the street I live 2 houses off of, is a literal freeway. I can tell when there is a soccer game going on, and when I simply drive down the street, I can see that the cars are parked all along the Village Commons Drive, all the way up to Rancho Rosal and onto Davenport, which is where that property will border. In addition to the school, with the residents there, the park, the operating hours that I spoke of, each one of the facilities that I named off that Oakmont owns all have a different impact on that community based upon time. And I can't speak to why that is. I just know by looking at their time scale and their bar graph that at one point, and I believe it's the Santa Clarita facility, upwards until 9 p.m. on some nights, on the weekend nights, that was one of the busier spots. I may have them mixed up, my bad on that, but again, if you look at their website and you see when they're most busy and when they're least busy, that is also an issue. And then the third thing here, and I'll keep this kind of short, having worked in the fire service for some 26 plus years, having driven large apparatus such as a ladder truck, a fire pumper for 13 of those 26 and a half years, I know what it's like to drive those things. They do not stop on a dime. Most recently, and to the gentleman in the back, my brethren, a recent impact occurred with the ladder truck and a high school student off of Arneal Drive that sent the car 70 some odd feet per the Ventura County STARS report, spinning across the street and into a field. That field just happens to be across from the McDonald's area on Arneal, which is, I believe, like a private school area or a big open grass area. The damage to the front of the ladder truck was pretty extensive. The damage to the full-size pickup truck totaled the vehicle. Okay, that was a Code 3 response to an emergency, a 911 call. So this whole idea that as somebody that's driven vehicles and now that somebody that sits on the passenger side and supervises the drivers and everybody else on board, that those sirens and lights will be turned off when we hit a neighborhood is not correct. There are 9, and if you'd like I can cite them, 9 California vehicle codes that govern the use and the display of sirens and lights when it pertains to emergency responding. To say that anybody, Ventura County Fire Department, AMR, I've spoken with Ventura County Fire Department staff. I'm not sure if it was the gentleman to the rear of me. I visited their headquarters at the Camarillo Airport, and I also visited AMR's station there in Old Town Camarillo. AMR, and if you have an experience with EMS, AMR's Code 3 response is all or none. If they turn on the lights and it's a Code 3 response, it's lights and sirens. It does not matter. There is no written policy, and I can speak from knowing this with my own department. We're governed by California law, California Vehicle Code. We have standard operating procedures. Those standard operating procedures or policies do not supersede law. And the first thing that anybody will ever ask if you're ever involved in an accident with a vehicle, an emergency vehicle responding Code 3 is, did they have their lights and sirens on? So to say that there is no danger to have these large vehicles coming in, ambulances coming in, I've seen the renderings. It is a beautiful facility. I do not doubt that one bit. But somebody that's driven a ladder truck, somebody that's driven a fire pumper, there is no way that I would park that rig inside of a parking lot in that. It's going to end up on the street. And that will plug up Davenport. There are 3 ways into Village at the Park community. Village at the Park Drive, Village at the Park, or Village Commons, and Bridgehampton. Depending on the district that is available to serve that, Station 54 over here off of Pickwick is the one that would come in from Village at the Park Drive from the west. 52s, or Station 52 off of Santa Rosa Road up towards Leisure World, they would be coming in through my end of the neighborhood from Bridgehampton down Davenport. Only 3 ways to get into that neighborhood, all of which take you through highly impacted residential neighborhoods with kids running around. If an accident can occur on a 2-lane busy street, 2-lane north and south, busy street involving a ladder truck responding code 3 and a vehicle, and I'm not sure of the circumstances, I'm sure the investigation is ongoing, but if that can occur there, what is the likelihood that that can occur in our neighborhood as well? Okay. I would highly recommend, I know that the EIR was done years ago when the Village at the Park was proposed, to revisit that, to look at that, to see what the impacts are based upon the data that they provide on their website, based upon some of the concerns of our neighbors, based upon all these things. Please take a look at that, because I truly believe in my heart it will impact our community. Thank you.
Well,
There's the card.
is it in there?
Yeah.
Okay, we have 3 more, and because of the length of time, I'm going to set it at 3 minutes for each person to deliberate. Obviously, it was something that came up during the discussion, so. I'd like
Mr.
to-
Chairman, I believe the 3 minutes requires a vote of the committee in order to implement it. It can't be unilaterally decided by the chair.
That's correct, and I would recommend at this point, since we haven't instituted that up to now, we probably should just stay the course.
Say this, when you have something to say, it's a lot more effective, it's something new and different instead of repeating something that's already been said. And I'd appreciate you think about what you're saying and have it new, and I would appreciate that part. So the first is Holly Thomas.
Hello, my name is Holly Thomas. Thank you for listening to us today. I live at 270 Brister Park Court, which the development directly affects me and my 2 children, who are 4 and 6. A few of my concerns are safety, like everyone has mentioned. Being that it is a memory care is dementia, Alzheimer is a mental illness. I would like to ask you, if that was you and your family, would you move them into a place right behind somewhere that had, that was a memory care or had a mental illness as well? Let's see. The construction also, I had a question about that. During the construction, are there going to be moving vehicles while there is school drop-off at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 2, and 3? Because there are 4 different drop-offs and pickups. Let's see. And another concern, not only for the noise of the construction, but having kids, is that going to affect the senior citizens living there? My parents live at Leisure Village, and when my kids have been over there during the day, they've gotten complaints about the noise of kids that are there. That's a great concern, having kids. And then my yard right there, if they're playing baseball or have whatever and something goes over, is it gonna, what if it hits them, or what if, who's responsible for that if an accident does occur? Is that a safe space for them? That's about it. Everyone else pretty much hit everything else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? All right. Is it Yang Wong?
Chair, if I may, I just want to go ahead and remind members of the audience that although this is a public hearing, please be respectful of the commenters and the commissioners. And to that extent, keep your applauses or other noises or boos or anything like that to a minimum. We're trying to conduct the public hearing and make sure that the information is received properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Annie?
Good evening. My name is Annie Wang. I'm living in a 239 Belafonte Court. So my backyard is face the center. So every weekend, my backyard, the road, and between the school, it's all falling a parking lot. It's just when I go out from my home, always cannot see. When I left turn, always has a trouble to left turn because all the car block my view. So you see the traffic in the weekend, it's very bad. I have to go over other road to get out to the freeway. So I was concerned about this center. I'm supporting senior center. I'm working for the supporting housing. And I know this is a place as kind of too small to build up for senior center. That's my concern. Also, we bought this house. It's beautiful, lovely neighborhood with quiet, very quiet. Right now, except that the soccer field is noisy, but because they built it before I bought it, so I have no complaint. I can't complain anything, right? But I just concerned that's all the, 911 call because senior, they have more like a medical issue thing. So going to be cause more traffic. The location, also because the soccer field is so busy, I feel like our neighborhood's price, it's just never moved up. It's always stay there because, people say, oh, you have a big giant soccer field over there. It's kind of noisy. No, people always love to buy Mission Oaks than us. I feel like, according some of friends, it's a relative aging. That's all I'm concerned. The location and the price of Village Park of a residence. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions? And we have, is it France or Francis Hayes? Hey? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Hello, I bought at Village at the Park. I'm one of the first buyers, and lucky me, I'm on Fountain, and I get to face the fire trucks and the emergency vehicle. That's my new driveway, and I paid almost $800,000 for my home. So I am pretty upset, and I, as David knows, love old people. I've put my parents through all kinds of stuff and my in-laws. I just feel this beautiful facility would be better right off of Dawson. You have that big lot. I have waited for 12 years for something to happen across the street from me, and I feel like this should be near the freeway, across from the hotel, the little thing right there. It wouldn't bother anybody. It's in its own cordoned area. Easy access to the freeway, easy emergency vehicles. It wouldn't bother anybody. I moved there so I could enjoy peace and quiet, and I've waited for 12 years for my stuff to go up, and now I really feel like my property value is going to go down. I want a place for old people to go, but if it was near the freeway, which I think you guys have zoned for a grocery store, but nobody wants it. Everything's been slow because of our economy. But that would be a better place for it because it's not fair. I mean, to some people, maybe $750,000, $800,000 is nothing, but we're stuck there. We've been waiting and waiting to have the value go up in our homes, and I just feel like it'd be better, that whole position put somewhere away from people and their children. I watch them every day. The field, the kids play in there. They enjoy it. It really is going to impact the area. And I've watched the whole thing. I was born in 1959 in Oxnard, and I moved to Camarillo. I've watched this grow, and I just really feel like this isn't the best fit for that piece of property, being so hugged by children. On any school morning, if they have a program, It is wrapped all the way down Bridgehampton, all the way down my street, even blocking my driveway. And that's just with school. That's not with any workers. I know workers are going to park in my driveway. I know they're going to park in front of my house. You can't say they're going to ride a bike. I'm sorry, didn't fall off the turnip truck. It's going to happen. Unless you give them parking permits and they stay in their zone, it's not fair to us. We pay our taxes and we have been going down, down. And I just feel like, take it over there off Dawson, maybe that would be better, because you could just put your plants on a different piece of land and let us have something. And that's all I have to say, sorry.
May I ask you a question, please? May I ask you a question? May I ask you a question? I want to make sure I understood. You said that there's rows of children going around the block and in your driveway. What were they there for? All these children?
The parents park all along during school programs, the kids play, this whole area, that's where the kids play. They ride their bikes, ride their skateboards.
Ma'am, if I may,
I'm having a hard time understanding.
ma'am,
Ma'am.
can you go ahead and
In order,
speak
so
at
it's on the
the-
record, if you could.
I want to be sure I understand your point, and I don't understand where, the kids are just lining up and waiting for their rides, or?
No, the parents park to go to their programs, to go to the school. I'm just saying, you guys think there's enough parking. I live on where you're going to put the emergency entrance with all the fire trucks and vehicles. I have parking that comes clear from Village Commons, down Bridgehampton, down Fountain. It's full. In any program with the kids, it's not for every day, but it is really jammed. And when there's games at the fields, they come all the way down. I'm just saying, you might not have enough parking, and it's going to be really hard for people. Most people in these big homes are 4 and 5 bedroom. They don't have 2 cars in front of the house. They maybe have 3. So it's just going to get really congested. I'm just telling you, the kids, I know another thing, delivery trucks at night. When will they deliver the groceries, the medical equipment, all this stuff? That's right there in front of my house. How would you like, you and I, they're going to deliver right there, and emergency vehicles will be right there. This is my front door. It's just kind of disturbing when somebody has invested and worked really hard. And that's all I just want to say, that I feel it'd be better placed at Dawson. I waited 12 years for a grocery store to go down there for our village at the park, and the economy tanked. We waited, and now we get this. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's beautiful. It's wanted. I think it's great. I just wish it was off to Dawson where it wouldn't affect the residents. There's nobody over there but a gas station and a hotel, just right there. I don't know if it's big enough. I've never really thought about it, but it's open. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. And I've been a resident my whole life, and so has my family. And I just would like to see a more peaceful area. It's sad to think that we're going to get that impacted. And I do know it will bring our property value down on Fountain, Village Commons, and the area there. Not so much Bridgehampton, because they are in an alcove, but definitely my street. It's like,
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
yeah, I'm not saying, no, I'm just saying that the families park there and the kids play.
Thank you.
Again, I would like to remind members of the audience to please respect the public hearing process and limit your applause and any outside noise, please.
Hello, my name is Andrew McCoy. I live on Brister Park, so my backyard faces the property. I want to thank you all for letting us have a chance to talk about this. I sent a letter earlier to Carlos with most of my complaints, so I won't take too long. Most everything I have issues with have been talked about. I think the most important thing to realize is this looks awesome. Like, I hope someday I can afford to live in a place like that, but I don't think the location is correct. The spot off Dawson would be much better suited for it. We have two small kids. They've both been going through Rancho Guazal. And my biggest concern is actually the child's safety as they're walking to and from school. Crossing guards here, she deals with the insanity every day. There's actually been a kid hit before few years ago. And it's just, we want to keep our kids safe. A couple other things is felt it was very disingenuous on Oakmont's behalf. Sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name, but the other properties are not at all like this facility is proposed. They are on main thoroughfares, and so I don't think you can use those as proof that it works well in a neighborhood. And to go on her point about what's happening around that field is there's a lot of foot traffic constantly. Kids, families, people walking their dogs, skateboards, scooters, bikes. And the traffic coming to and from that facility would probably interrupt that and be somewhat dangerous. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Byrne. And I saw another slip coming. Is that? I guess not. This ends the
Public hearing.
public testimony, and I'd like to go to the Architectural Review Committee.
Did you want the applicant to have some time to respond?
Pardon me?
Did you want the applicant to have some time to respond? Applicant and/or staff? Okay.
Well, there's a number of questions, and we will do our best to answer them the best we can this evening. What I'd like to do first is have Courtney come up and talk about our involvement with the local schools and the types of programs we do within the community.
Thank you again for your time this evening. I'll make my comments and responses brief, but in response to the intergenerational program, this is actually part of our life enrichment program. We've seen a lot of success. We've had different functions, intergenerational veterans groups, senior mentoring, game nights with the children. We've also done it with middle schools. It's been very successful, especially weekends or evenings. It's definitely part of keeping our residents engaged in the community that they have been a part of for so many years, as well as feeling fulfilled within life. So active parts of what we do, we would be not only interested in relationships with all of the neighbors, but within the schools and the children's as well. We're very agreeable, we're open, and we're here, and so we're looking forward to our relationship with that school. You want me to hit the rest?
Yeah, go ahead and hit the rest while you're there.
And just for the sake of time, since I am responsible for the oversight of the day-to-day operations, the direct oversight of all 2,000 of our employees, and the safety and well-being of all of our residents, I wanted to respond to a few of the questions that came up. The first was in regards to the visits. There was a comment made that most of the visits are on the weekends, and I've been spending the better part of 10 years doing this, and I can say that that's actually not correct from my own personal experience. We see consistent visits throughout the weeks. Doesn't really matter the day of the week or the time. Different schedules work for different people. The other thing I wanted to comment on was there's been a lot of commentary on staff carpooling and biking, and I think it is a very valid question you raised. I would have raised it myself. I think we can acknowledge that this is one sentence in a very large grouping of information that's been provided on the project. I will say, in my experience, most of our employees, they do drive. But while that's said, I also have a good group of staff at all of our communities that do either carpool. There is 1 or 2 vehicles for a large family, so they share and they do get dropped off. And where it's appropriate and when it's available, they do take public transportation. And when proximity is available, I do have a handful of staff at each of the buildings who do bike when the weather's well. So I just want to acknowledge that's a very small sentence. We don't by any means think that our staff are going to bike or carpool to 100% of our staff. But the last thing I wanted to mention was regards to the deliveries, and I think Franz brought up some good questions. And I also wanted to mention to you, too, that emergency that emergency lane is something that we're required to have at a lot of our communities. And knock on wood, it's not anything we've ever had to use. It's really in an event of a serious catastrophic emergency, such as a fire or major issues with the building where they'd have to gain access to the back. So very rare that would ever be anything used. No deliveries after any unseen business times. Most of those are relationships. We pay them. We're their client and their customer, and so we can actually work with the neighbors and figure out timeframes and things that work best with the school and everybody else. So where we can control the delivery times, we're very happy to do so, but under no circumstance are we really getting deliveries after business hours in any event. Thank you again for your time this evening.
Thank you, Courtney. Yeah, I think that there's been some confusion. Hopefully, we've kind of straightened it out as far as the access off of Fountain. That strictly is a fire access lane for the fire trucks to be able to get in the back in the case of a major emergency and a giant fire. And I think when the flames go up anywhere, nobody really cares where anybody goes. And we're fully sprinkled. We're fully monitored. We're 24-hour staffed. The likelihood of a fire is obviously very, very, very limited. But there is no emergency vehicles coming back there to pick up residents. There's no deliveries back there. There's bollards in place. It's going to be a grasscrete type surface back there, so it'll be semi-decorative. The only time it's ever going to be used is in some sort of catastrophe. And I know I've kind of pressed that, but I think it's been misunderstood on how that portion of the project off of Fountain's going to be used. Also, what was one of the things that was brought up was the proximity of our projects within residential communities and how they fit in and what kind of response we've got. And if we can turn this back on, Carson, Hannah did take a few of the site plans, not all of our buildings, to kind of show that we do have relationships with residential. No one, senior or otherwise, wants to put their parents somewhere out in the middle of nowhere where there's little access next to a gas station or somewhere. Everyone wants to be within a residential feeling. People are living within the community. The majority of the people that come and stay with us are within a 5 to 6 mile ring of where our project is located. Therefore, people want to be a part, in a sense, of the community. So, that being said, Hannah has a couple of these. I think is that Carmichael?
Carmichael.
Sorry.
Good evening. My name's Hannah Darty. I'm a project manager with Oakmont Senior Living. So I think the last speaker brought up something. I'm a little bit confused. We held a neighborhood meeting. I was contacted by someone different who had brought up the question of if we had ever built in residential neighborhoods and how that went. I sent him 2 separate emails. The first one, I don't have them up, but basically I sent them these buildings that you're going to see here. Our experience has been that we have a beautiful product. It's a residential style. Yes, it is a business. There's no argument there, but this is where seniors will call their home. So this is Oakmont of Carmichael. This is Oakmont of Chino Hills. Oakmont of Escondido Hills. Oakmont of San Antonio Heights. And that's it. So we have more, but those are the examples that I wanted to show you tonight. So yeah.
May I ask a question? Do you have any experience in what building a facility like that does for the property values in the area?
We've never had any complaints once our facilities are up of property values going down. I don't have research in front of me, so I can't say, but we've never had anyone negatively complain about property values once the facility is built.
The project itself is, excuse me? These are examples of some of the properties we've done. Property values, you've seen the construction, the style of construction, the type of project we're going to be bringing forward with the community. This is a very extensive, very expensive project, and I believe it's going to be, or we believe it's going to be a real add to the community. Everyone has obviously their own opinion. I would like to ask Carolyn to come up. She's the one she's the traffic engineer. She's been locally working with, with the city, and she had done some studies, and she had augmented the information that the city required with some of the information we had from our other projects. And that's where the information about ride shares and other things came about. So I'm going to let Carolyn address parking and traffic and comparison of traffic to other uses. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us. My name is Carolyn Cole. I'm a principal with Crane Transportation Group, and I've worked on projects with senior facilities for 20 years probably. We have had the experience of surveying hourly how people come to, for instance, an Oakmont facility. We surveyed one in great detail in Alameda, and in a very upscale area, and we found